What's good, guys? Fantasy Joe back here there in Mock Draft Monday. Today I'm drafting from the 5 overall spot, half point PPR, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 QB, 1 flex, and 1 tight end. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I have a ton of fantasy profiles on the channel, post mock drafts every Monday. A ton of redraft content, values, busts, sleepers, league winners, dynasty content as well, buy lows, sell highs, all that good stuff to let you dominate all your friends and family in fantasy football. Let's take a look. So I went Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, and Christian McCaffrey. Taking a look at who is still on the board. Basically, for me, I'm between Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, and Cooper Kupp here. I'm going to take Cooper Kupp. Don't take him in many leagues. Don't start many leagues with a wide receiver. So we're going to draft him, especially in a mock draft, and see how this figures out. You can see how the draft is going after that pick right there. I am back on the board. Running backs, we've got Fournette, James Conner. Mike Evans is still on the board. He's another tier to me of wide receivers. I do need a running back, though. My favorite amongst the guys still here is James Conner. I'm going to draft James Conner with my second round pick. Glad I did. Mike Evans actually stayed on the board. I think he's a great value at this point in the draft. Not nearly as crazy as about him as I am about David Montgomery. And Kyle Pitts is too far of a reach for me personally. I'm going to take Mike Evans here. I think he's going to get a ton of targets and a really hot start to this season with Chris Godwin injured with that torn ACL. Rob Gronkowski, for at least for now, is retired. I think that means a lot of targets are going to funnel their way to Mike Evans in that offense with Brady and all those pass attempts. I think he's got a touchdown upside to begin with, and now you're talking about an increase in volume. I think that is the recipe for a great year for Mike Evans. Taking a look at who's still available, some tempting wide receivers somewhat, but I'm actually going to take Elijah Mitchell here from San Francisco. I think he is going to be the starter there as long as he's healthy. I think he'll be a viable starting fantasy running back, and I need some RBs for sure for starting two of my first three picks with wide receivers. Taking a look at who's still available, since I do have such a steady team, I'm tempted to go with Mike Williams. I really like either Mike Williams or Courtland Sutton for that flex. I am going to take Mike Williams just because we've seen him do it before, have that crazy year. Went absolutely off at the beginning of last year, showed what he could do, got that big contract extension. Courtland Sutton does go off the board, unfortunately, in that situation, but we knew he would. And I'm going to stag Miles Sanders here. That gets a lot of attempts in that offense. Another running back I can have for depth. Really like that he was still available there. We're going to pull the trigger on Kareem Hunt here as well. Same thing. Just a guy I think I can plug into that RB2 spot all year long if need be, as long as he's healthy. Excuse me. Okay. Not too crazy about any of these wide receivers still on the board. There's a few in this next tier I'd be interested in drafting. I think Elijah Moore does have upside, but I think there are some more targets there now. I'm actually going to take the talent of Ramondre Stevenson. Really just like the film. Averaged 12 carries a game over the last 11 weeks, I believe. James White probably not ready to start this season. I think that there's a role for him even when Damian Harris is healthy, and I think he's a more talented running back than Damian Harris. Okay, so I've loaded up on some running backs now. Russell Wilson's still out there. Would like to get him. I'm going to take one more wide receiver, I think, before I do take Russell Wilson. It's the 9th round currently. I'm going to take Christian Kirk. Got a ton of money in Jacksonville this year. He's going to primarily play that slot role coming off a 1,000-yard season. I think the ball is going to go his way, and we'll see if any of these quarterbacks are still on the board. Lazard went. I was very tempted to take him. It was between him and I will take Russell Wilson here. Between him and the receiver I just took. I'm blanking on his name. Let me go to my roster. It's slowing down here for a bit. Okay. It's between him and Christian Kirk for me. I think the chemistry he already has with Rodgers is pre-established. I really like that. Jacoby Myers, I will take here. He got a ton of targets. I think he led New England targets each of the last 2 seasons. Not many receivers like that still out there, especially Michael Gallup going to recover from that injury. I like his prospects, but going to miss several weeks of the season where I can't use him to help me win any games. Gus Edwards, I will take. Kind of that similar Ramondre Stevenson role to Damian Harris, that number 2 guy who's going to be involved, offer some flex and some overall upside in case that number 1 guy in front of him goes down or he overtakes that job. Also snagged Tim Patrick here. Love that he's still available, and I already have Russ as my QB. Really loaded up on wide receivers and running backs in this draft. Obviously, I've taken Russell Wilson already, but I haven't even really looked at many tight ends. Thought about Pitts early, but it's like if I'm not taking an early tight end, I'm basically just punting the position. You know what? I will take Zach Ertz here, though, for the same reason, taking several of these guys. With DeAndre Hopkins suspended for the first 6 weeks of the season, it's going to be mainly him and Marquise Brown soaking up those targets. I think he could get off to a hot start of the season, that tight end position. I could maybe trade him for someone else, maybe upgrade the position, maybe go get a big-time wide receiver or something like that. Okay, we still have some solid players are still on the board. I will actually double up on the tight end spot, take Cole Kmet. He's a guy I think there'll be a lot of pass attempts in that Chicago Bears offense because I think they'll be trailing in most games. I don't think there's a ton of talented options there, so he's worth a dart throw in these later rounds. And now let's take a look at the team. We got Russell Wilson, James Conner, Elijah Mitchell, Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, Zach Ertz, Mike Williams in that select spot. Then we got Miles Sanders, Kareem Hunt, Ramondre Stevenson, Christian Kirk, Jacoby Myers, Gus Edwards, Tim Patrick, and Cole Kmet. Really like this roster, especially if you're starting wide receiver heavy. It shows you don't need to be afraid of taking the best player available. You can land running backs in those 3 to 5th round ranges. You can land wide receivers in those ranges. You guys don't need to be worried about this dead zone or any of that type of thing. If you've got a guy that you really like and you think he's worth it, then take him. It's fantasy football, and that's the whole point. If you guys have made it to this point in the video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. I respond as always. This has been Fantasy Joe.